Namastude. Karacharana kritam kayajam karamajam Sravananainajam manasam paradham vihitam vihitam sarvameta kshamasva Jaya Jaya Karunabdhe Sri Mahadeva Shambho Sri Mahadeva Shambho Surayaya Namah Chandramaya Namah Mangalaya Namah Buddhaya Namah Brihashpataye Namah Shukraya Namah Sanisharaya Namah Rangarahave Namah Kalkinketavaya Namah Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Sriman Mahaganadhipataye Namah. So I think we were offline there for a few minutes or a few seconds. Sorry about that. I wasn't sure whether we were online or not, so I was continuing with some prayers. However, like I said, I think we're back now. Like I said, we'll do some special. The stotram, the Sankatanashan stotram that we usually do. Why? Because it's still in the season of Ganesh Ji's worship, and so for those of us who will perform Visarjan tomorrow, and worship with the mind, ask Bhagavan Ganesh Ji to take away all your obstacles and all impediments from your path so that you can progress in every aspect of life, especially spiritually. The Atharva Shears comes from, Ganesha Atharva Shears comes from the Atharva Ved and says, Ekadandam Jaturhastam Pashamum Kushadharanim Adam Chavaradam Mastai Brimanam Mushakadujam Raktam Lambodaram Surupakarnakam Raktavasasam Raktagandhanulipatangam Raktapushpaiha Sapujitam. So you recognize that the word Rakta or Raktam is used many times here. That's because that word means red. And so it says here that Ganeshji has a beautiful red form, Rakta Lambodaram. Lambodaram refers to Ganeshji. Lambodaram means the pot-belly god. And so Rakta Lambodaram, that is, he has a red color. Surpakarnam Raktavasasam, that the Raktavasam, the clothes that he wears is red. Rakta Gandhana Lipatangam, that his skin is anointed with a red paste. And in this case, when we talk of a red paste, we're talking about the Chandan paste. And so when we apply Chandan on Ganeshji, then we should put, red Chandan. This is generally known as Sindoor. But for information's sake, Sindoor and red Chandan, it's called Rakta Chandan. These are two different things. So if you want it, if you want to go according to the books, In bhakti, whatever you have, you can apply in Ganeshji and offer from your heart, and then your offerings would be accepted. But if you want to know what is preferable according to the scripture, then Ganeshji wears red clothes according to the Ganesha Tharva Shears from Atharva Ved. Ganeshji is red in color, or at least reddish in color, and the chandan that you apply to his forehead is also Rakta Gandhanulipasangam, sweet smelling, Rakta Gandha. Gandha means sweet smelling. So sweet smelling, red chandan should be applied to Ganeshji. Rakta Pushpaiha Sapujitam. Simple words. Sapujitam here means when we're doing puja to Ganeshji, Rakta Pushpaiha. That when we make offerings to him, we should offer red flowers also. So just as a piece of information, at this time we will again do the Ganesh Sankatanashan. This is comparable to when we praying to Hanumanji and we sing the Hanumanji Sankatamochan. That set of prayers that is designed to remove obstacles and bring happiness, spiritual happiness and material happiness, meaning peace of mind, contentment and understanding of life. Realizing that we are a whole bundle of happiness, right in the same way that we are right now. And so this stotra is designed to, I think this week we're also putting up the meaning, because this is the final week we'll be doing this stotra, at least for this season. So let's group our voices together as we chant the Sankatanashan from Narad Puran. We give prayers to Bhagavan Ganesha. Ganganapataye Namah. Gauri Mata Ki Jai. Bande Ganapati Vighna Vinashana He Lambodare Gajanana. Bande Ganapati Vighna Vinashana He Lambodare Gajanana. Bande Ganapati Vighna Vinashana He Lambodare Gajanana. Riddhi Siddhi ke Data tum ho, Riddhi Siddhi ke Data tum ho, He Shashi Shekhar Nandana. Riddhi Siddhi Data tum ho, He Shashi Shekhar Nandana. Bande Ganapati Vighna Vinashana He Lambodar Gajanana. Lambodhanapati Vighna Vinashana He Lambodar Gajanana. Pranamya Shirsha Devam Gauriputram Vinayakam Bhaktavasam Smare Nityam Ayukamadasedyaye. Prathamam Vakratundam Cha Ekadantam Dvitiyakam Tritiyam Krishna Pingaksham Gajavakram Chaturtakam Lambodaram Panchamam Cha Shashtam Vikatmeva Cha Saptamam Vidadrajam Cha Dhumravarnam Tatashtamam Navamam Balachandam Cha Dashimam तु विनायकम् एकादशं गणपतिः द्वादशं तु गजाननं द्वादशैतानि नामानि त्रिसंख्यं जपते नर न च विघ्नभयं तस्य सर्वसिद्धिश्च जायते विद्यार्थी लभते विद्यां धनार्थी लभते धनं पुत्रार्थी लभते पुत्रान् मोक्षार्थी लभते गतिं जपेद गणपतिस्तोत्रं शतभिर्वा सैफलं लभेत् संवत्सरेण सिद्धं च लभते नात्र संशय अष्टभ्यो ब्राह्मणेभ्यश्च लिखित्वा समर्पयेत् तस्य विद्या भवेत् सर्वां गणेशस्य प्रजापते गणेशस्य प्रजापते वन्दे गणपति विघ्नविनाशन हे लम्बोदर गजानन वन्दे गणपति विघ्नविनाशन हे लम्बोदर गजानन रिद्धि सिद्धि के दाता तुम हो रिद्धि सिद्धि के दाता रिद्धि सिद्धि के दाता तुम हो रिद्धि सिद्धि के दाता तुम हो हे शशि शेखर वंदन गाइए वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन हे लंबोदर गजानन वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन हे लंबोदर गजानन ओ वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन हे लंबोदर गजानन सर्वमंगलमांगल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते गणपति भगवान की जय।
Radha Krishna Foundation presents an international event. Friday, November 13th, 2020. Deepavali, Return of Light. Radha Krishna Foundation launches RKF Virtual Academy, a unique blend of curriculum-based cultural and academic e-learning programs on a fully integrated learning management system designed for all ages. With qualified professional instructors at all levels, we aim to deliver the most amazing learning experience from the comfort of your home, all free of cost. Yoga, meditation, and pranayama for adults and children. Karate, classical dance, vocal, tabla, Sanskrit, Hindi, Bhagavad Gita recitation, and tutoring for the CSEC and National Grade 6 exams. In a new world without boundaries, we have made all our programs available to everyone around the globe, structured for multiple time zones, regardless of race, religion, or age. Registration begins on October 1st, 2020 on our website, radhakrishnaffoundation.com. Take advantage of this unique opportunity for your children and yourself. Share with your family, mobilizing minds, empowering lives.
Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai. We'll do a dhun now to Sri Radha Krishna before we go into our pravachan. Remember that this week we're trying to keep our satsang down to 90 minutes to an hour and a half, so you may observe a few little changes here and there, like especially in the beginning of our satsang. If you realize today is Chatti, Radha Rani's Chatti. Remember we did Radhashtami a few days ago, and last Tuesday. And on Janmashtami, when we celebrated the birth of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, we also talked about the importance of Chatti, the sixth day. The sixth day of the birth of a child is extremely important. It's when the mother and the family do certain rituals, celebrate the baby coming, lighting a diya, bathing the baby, etc., sharing gifts, etc. So today we're celebrating Chatti of Radha Rani. So let's group our voices together as we sing to Radha Rani on this very special day of hers, celebrating her Chatti, sixth day. Radhe 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 नहीं भूलू तू ही नहीं भूलू तू ही पल आधे नहीं भूलू तू ही पल आधे नहीं भूलू तू ही पल आधे नहीं भूलू करहु कृपास श्री राधे करहु कृपास श्री राधे करहु कृपास श्री राधे करहु कृपास श्री राधे 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 Radhe 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 Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Oh Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Oh Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Oh Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Shri Radhe Oh Radhe 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 बरसाने वाली भोरी भारी प्यारी राधे बरसाने वाली भोरी भारी प्यारी राधे ओ प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे ओ बरसाने वाली भोरी भारी प्यारी राधे बरसाने वाली भोरी भारी प्यारी राधे 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 श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे ओ श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे ओ प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे ओ श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे श्री वृषभानु दुलारी प्यारी राधे 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 वृषभानु दुलारी कीर्ति कुमारी राधा रानी की जय। Devotees of Bhagavan, today we worship Ganeshji, we worship Radha Rani. These are different forms of God. For those of you who've been listening, who've been joining us in our satsang, you would realize that we said many times, Eko Deva Sarva Bhuteshu Guda Sarva Vyapi Sarva Bhutantaratmana, that God is one, Svetashwar Upanishad, Canto 6, verse 11. that God is one. But He has taken many forms depending on the situation. He has come as man, He has come as woman. God is a small child, a male. He's a small child, a female. He's an old man. He is everything. Why? Because the word omnipotent is synonymous with God, and so He can be anything. So in Sanatana Dharma, God has taken many dissensions or manifestations, as male, as female, as children, as adults, etc. So while we worship Ganeshji, we also worship Radharani. But as you know, that in our regular satsang we do a Gita verse every week, and so we want to do that today. We'll look at verse 8 of chapter 7. For those of you who've been joining us, you know that we've been reading from Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because Gita is that scripture that can uplift us. Can uplift us not only spiritually, but whatever aspect of life we approach and we want to succeed at that. Especially if that is a dharmic task. Dharmic meaning it is righteous. If it's a righteous task, righteous doesn't necessarily have to be religious, but it can be something that is good for humanity, something that is good for yourself, your family, humanity at large, etc. We can be successful at those with the blessings of Ganeshji also. But when we study Bhagavad Gita, any aspect of life that we talk about, the greatest men who have ever trotted upon this earth have all used Bhagavad Gita to their advantage. They weren't necessarily Hindus. Socrates, Gandhi, Einstein, so many great men. Today, current popular people, Obama, Will Smith, and so many other, even Hollywood stars, are not only reading Bhagavad Gita, but they're publicly saying how Bhagavad Gita, putting the teachings of Bhagavad Gita in their lives, they're able to succeed. They're able to understand life better, that things don't bother them as much. These are people who live high-pressured lives. They have so many things to do, reputation, to keep up all these things. They need to be successful. They all read Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is non-sectarian, as we say. It's not for one particular religion. The teachings of Bhagavad Gita, anybody can take and put into their lives, and they'll become successful. So what we'll do is that we'll chant the words of verse 8 of chapter 7. We've already discussed the first 7 verses. So today we'll do chapter 8, verse 8 rather, briefly. Then we shall go into our meditation and close. We're trying to close in less than an hour from now. Om Sri Paramatmane Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Rasoham apsu kaunteya. Prabhasmi shashi suryayo. Rasoham apsu kaunteya. Prabhasmi shashi suryayo. प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दखे पौरुषं निषु शब्दखे पौरुषं निषु ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। So let's discuss the meaning that you've seen in the screen there. Briefly, this is verse 8, like I said, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan says, I'm the taste and water, O Kunti, the radiance of the sun and the moon, that I am the sacred syllable Om that we hear in all the mantras. In all Vedic mantras, we hear Om, that I am the sound in ether, the sound in space, and I'm the ability in human beings. Bhagavan says that I am Pranava. Pranava means Om, that sacred syllable, Om. So here Bhagavan is helping us to understand when we look at all the things in creation, how is God a part of those? Remember, we've always re-established and reminded ourselves in satsang that in Sanatana Dharma, we believe that the creation is a manifestation or an expansion, an extension of God, and that God is not necessarily sitting in heaven somewhere and has created this universe and it's separate. That God, like with us, Ishvara Ansa Jiva Vinashi, that we're all a fragmental part of God, and so is the universe. And so in the next few verses, Bhagavan helps us to understand what he means by I am a part and a particle of this entire universe. So today we'll just do one verse, and we'll look in brief what that means. So first, Bhagavan says, Apsu aham rasaha asmi. That in water, I'm the taste. So the first thing that comes to mind, taste in water. There's no taste in water. Water is known to be tasteless. But in Sanatana Dharma, we say that taste is the dharma. Taste is the duty. It's an integral. It's inherent in water. That sensation that we get when we drink water, Bhagavan is saying, that is me. We say loosely there is no taste in water, yet, if you live in New York and you're accustomed to drinking Poland Spring from the store over there, and then you come to Florida. Most New Yorkers came to Florida for vacation, then you buy Zephyr Hills, and it tastes terrible. You can't stomach it. But yet we say there's no taste in water, but if it gets technical, if you ask the children in school, they go like, yeah, that's true, but that's not the taste in water. That's the minerals and the other things that are in the water. Okay. Bhagavan is saying, I'm the taste in water. God is saying here that I am that taste which is not yet developed as to have a classification. Classification means whether water is sweet or it is bitter or however you want to term things that you drink or eat. God is saying that the water that doesn't yet have that classification, but inherent in this water is taste, and that taste is what I am. So we have to be able to understand that there are subtleties in everything, and in water, and water is no different. There's a purpose to everything. And that we as human beings, we have to recognize them. And the taste in water is a subtlety. In the same way, let's take an example spiritually or scripturally when Vibhishan was coming from Lanka. We all know that katha. He was flying across the ocean, coming north, coming into India from Lanka, where his brother, Ravan, was the king. And Sugriv and all the other Vanars that were there with Bhagavan, they said to Sri Ram that, look, Sugriva is coming, Vibhishan is coming, and so we need to take him into prison. This is an enemy. He's coming from the enemy's camp. He's the brother of the demonic king also, that we have to take him, arrest him, and imprison him because he's coming here to cause harm to us, meaning the people who are fighting for dharma. These were the words of Bhagwan Sri Ram, when Sugriva said that. Sri Ram replied to Sugriva, and he says that there's a reason, Sugriva, that we have to allow Vibhishan to come. Why? Because Bhagavan recognized outside of the body and outside of the place that Sugriva is coming from, outside of the language that he speaks, outside of the people who he's related to, outside of his birth and his upbringing, Bhagavan recognizes something else. And what is that? He recognized bhakti in the heart of Vibhishan. He could have read the mind because Bhagavan is omniscient. He knows everything. And so he saw in the mind of Vibhishan that he's not an enemy, but he's a devotee. He's a friend. Because regardless of the things we mentioned before, who is related to, etc., but in his mind, he's a devotee, and Bhagavan Sri Ram said that Sugriva, we're not going to take Vibhishan captive because the things that he is devoid of is moha kapat. According to the Chaupai, moha kapata chala chiddana bhava. That he is freed of falsehoods, chal. He is freed of duplicity, meaning hypocrisy. He is freed of chal. He is freed of chidra, of deceit. He doesn't have these demonic qualities, if you will. But what he has, nirmal man. Nirmal means pure. He has a pure mind for devotion. And so because of that, we'll accept him. He's not an enemy. So what we have to do as human beings, my friends, is recognize, try to go deeper and recognize when we see people, don't just judge them from where they live, what language they speak, what is the color of their skin, what side of the ocean they live, etc. These are not the right things to label people by and to decide that you know them because of all these aforementioned acquaintances or qualities in them. We have to have the divinity to go deeper and try to recognize people who they are from the inside. Now, only God can know a person's mind, but with the application of our spirituality, we can also recognize that. That's why we say namaste. Namaha means that we bow, the divinity within me recognizes and bows to the divinity within you. That's the meaning of te means to you. So that's the purpose of namaste. Similarly, and let's say, for example, you know, 100 people walks into a house where that family is keeping a dog. A dog is the pet. If among those 100 people, one person is a dog lover, when those people walk into the house, the dog in that house would leave all the 99 people and run straight to that one person who's a dog lover. How? Because the dog recognizes who's a dog lover. The dog can read those sentiments, can read that chemistry is available to be picked up, and so very similarly we can do so as human beings. But we don't. And why don't we? Ramayana helps us to understand why we don't operate from such a level.
जाके रही भावना जैसे प्रभु मूर्ति देखिन तिन तैसी श्री राम जय राम श्री राम जय जाकी रही भावना जैसी, that a person's attitude determines how he sees everything. Prabhu Murat dekhi tin taisi. You know, and Sri Krishna went to Mathura to battle with Kans. He was a little boy, he was 11 years old, and there was an arena where this fight was going to take place. And there were many people looking. And the same thing happened in the Sita Swayambar. Remember Sita Swayambar, where you had to accomplish a task, you had to lift the bow of Bhagavan Shankar if you were to win the hands of Mata Sita, a Swayambar set by her father, Raja Janak. In that Sita Swayambar, and also with Sri Krishna, the people who sat there, their divinity reached different levels. Some people saw this puny little boy, and they were like, how can he defeat such a powerful king? How can he lift such a heavy bow?
There are others there who are divinity and saw divinity in Krishna and Bhagavan Ram. There are others who saw people who had demonic qualities. They saw him as a demon, like cunts. That just a demon fighting a demon, one is smaller, one is bigger. There are people with higher levels of spirituality, and they saw that, hey, this is Bhagavan, look, he has 4 heads, I can see 4 heads, I can see 4 arms. Another set of people saw 10 heads and 10 arms and saw him in a different color, etc., etc. So depending on your level of devotion, depending on your attitude in life, what you have followed and what is within you, see, that is what you get to see. An example is given by a person that, if you take a lemon and you give it to a young man to squeeze it, the question is asked, what comes out? And then if you give that lemon to a woman, what comes out? If you put that lemon under the hoof of an animal and that animal, the lemon is now crumbled completely, what comes out? Whether it's a child, a male, a female, an old person, a king, a beggar, anyone who squeezes that lemon, what will come out? Just lemon juice will come out. We all know that. Why? Because that is what is inside. It doesn't matter who's squeezing it. So with us as human beings, what is inside, that is what comes out on the outside. That is what our bhavana will be. And so this was the bhavana of all these people watching Sri Krishna and Bhagavan Sri Ram. If people are in the habit of lying, for example, then that person will not trust anybody. You will think everybody is untrustworthy. Why? Because to yourself, you know what you do. If people are full of doubt in their lives, they see everybody else like that. If you don't have any spirituality, you see everyone like that. If you have spirituality, you see everyone like that, etc. So only what is in you comes out. And so that is why Bhagavan is saying, Bhagavan Sri Ram was able to see inside of Vibhishan. And because of this Chaupai explained by Ramayana, we don't do that because we just go with who we are and we classify and judge everyone else just like that. This person is who is like how I am. We don't only do that with human beings, we did that with Sri Krishna. We did that with Bhagavan Sri Ram. Only one person benefited on Sri Ram's day, Ahilya. So many people, the Dhobi criticized him because he couldn't see the divinity. Duryodhana told his soldiers to not only that he didn't see Bhagavan in Krishna, he told him, arrest this milkman. Because Duryodhana only saw Krishna as another shape of who he is. Jaki rahi, bhavana jaisi. Many examples we can give, but we got the point by now. So in a similar manner, water is tasteless. However, water lends taste to everything. Without water, there is no taste. Without water, there is no taste. So let's take a pera, for example. You know pera? We all know pera, right? Pera, or a fudge. Take a piece of cloth and dry the tongue out completely. Dry the tongue, and then put the pera on the tongue and see what you taste. You know what you'll taste? Nothing. Because that's solid, even though you made it with so much sugar and milk, you're not tasting anything. Why? Because there's no saliva on the tongue. You would only start getting taste when saliva comes in contact with that solid, that pera or fudge. Then you go like, this tastes really good. Up until there was no saliva, there was no liquid, there was no taste in that solid. So this is why Bhagavan says, because saliva dissolves that solid, and then the perception of taste is experienced. So similarly, Bhagavan is saying here that that taste that is inherent, that is a dharma of water, that's who I am. That's my existence in water. So in a similar manner, as we've been talking about spirituality, that if you're not spiritually aligned properly, then there'll be no enjoyment in life. If you put a pear on your tongue, regardless of who makes it, and there's no water, there's no spirituality there, you wouldn't be able to enjoy it. So, in life, if we're not spiritually aligned, all we'll have is trouble and doubt and misery, because we have no confidence. We're not aligned with divinity. Regardless of what you achieve in life, anything material you achieve in life, those things can very well bring more suffering to you. Why? Because the more we acquire, the more we start worrying, oh God, this is coming now, I'm so happy that it's coming now, but will it continue to come? Would I be able to save it? You start thinking about bandits. Would they come and try to get my wealth? You hit the lotto, wealth has come. And then eventually, instead of the lotto doing you good, it destroys you. How many people did not get a heart attack and end up broke who won the lotto? So things are not necessarily designed to make us better or happier if we don't have the right mindset, and the mindset is a spiritual mindset. So like the subtlety in water, we have to be able to be aligned properly, and then we'll be able to enjoy the things that God has blessed us with. All the wealth that God has given us, we won't worry about it. We'll appreciate it and be grateful. We'll be happy with them and not worry about them. We have to have the required knowledge of the scriptures. Because without that, only misery will be created the more and more we get. Because more is not always better. Many times, sometimes we say less is better. But many times more is not necessarily better. It can be better if we're aligned properly. Scriptural knowledge and practicing spirituality. So we don't have to become fearful the more we get, fearful of losing it, etc. On the other hand, we can have nothing. People can have nothing and be completely happy. They're just happy with what they have. They're content with what they have. So let's recognize what is available to us and not be too quick to dismiss things that, based on face value. Because face value, like Vibhishan coming there, that can be deceptive. Swami Dayanand says regarding water that water is the essential characteristic, the subtle element. The cause for water to be water, in other words, that I am the essence of water. Swami Dayanand describes this verse as being its unique property, that I am the truth in water. That which makes water distinguishable as an element from everything else, that is my presence in water, says Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So there are a few points here. Let's quickly discuss the other ones. The other one, Bhagavan says, Shashi Suryoha. Shashi Suryoha Prabha. I am the brilliance in the sun and the moon. I am the light in Shashi, the moon, and Surya, the sun. That there is no sun without light. Whenever there is sun, there is light, there is brightness, there is energy. And the sun reflects its light on the moon, and we get moonlight also. Had it not been for the sun's reflection on the moon, the moon wouldn't be visible. And the lesson we have to take here, Bhagavan is saying, I'm the luminosity in the sun. I'm the brightness and the energy in the sun. And the moon, when we look at the moon at night, it brings calm. It brings hope. It makes you feel peaceful, looking forward for tomorrow. So the lesson we want to take from the sun, the moon, and look, the reflection of the sun, and that's why we enjoy moonlight. That many people try to leave a legacy, for example, in life, legacy for their children, legacy for community. Look at the sun. The sun leaves a legacy every day for us to follow, because without the sun, when the sun is not present here, we call it sunset and sunrise. Technically, we all know that's a myth. There's no actual sunrise and sunset, because the sun is always out in some part of the world, but we say like that. But when the sun is not visible in this part of the world, it reflects its light on the moon. The sun is saying to us that even though I'm not present there, I've left something for you to enjoy. This is my legacy. You can still enjoy in my absence. I've done something for the entire humanity. And so in return, the moon brings calm to us, because the sun does its duty regardless of the situation. It doesn't discriminate. Whether you plant things to feed humanity, vegetables, for example, or whether you plant things that people can use and harm themselves, drugs, etc., the sun doesn't care. It shares its light and energy equally to all those things, which is helpful, which is harmful. Whether you do things for charity, or whether you do things as a business, the sun doesn't discriminate. It shares equally. Whether you harness the sun for, electricity, or whether you use it as vitamin D, those are all good things. Or there's enough people who will curse the sun that it has given me skin cancer. Whatever the situation, the sun does not care. It just continues to do its work every day. This is called parupkar. Selfless duty. This is why Bhagavan is present. This is why he's saying, I am the brightness of the sun. Bhagavan is showing us how to live, how to continue a righteous duty, regardless of what the external situation is. So we can appreciate our coexistence amongst human beings, regardless of religion and race, etc. Be like the message that his son gives us. Because we're all, like we said before, we're all inextricably interconnected. And we can help each other to fulfill our purposes. We can be our brother's keeper. Because scriptures help us to understand. There's a beautiful Chaupai in Ramayana that comes to mind. Let's look at the words of that Chaupai. परहित बस जिनके मन माही, परहित बस जिनके मन माही, तिन कहु जग दुर्लभ कछु नाहि, तिन कहु जग दुर्लभ कछु नाहि। श्री राम जय राम, जय जय राम, 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 श्री राम जय राम, जय जय राम. This Chaupai is saying in Aranyakand that there's nothing in the world beyond the reach of those who have the interest of others at heart. The interests of others at heart, that there is no greater quality than that. Let's take an example from this beautiful story. What comes out from when we help each other? In the days of King Solomon, there were two brothers. They were farmers and they were planting wheat, and so when it was harvest time, they were harvesting their wheat, in the fields of Zion. And one night when the older brother, he harvested, he gathered his bundles of wheat, he thought of his smaller brother. And he took a few bundles of wheat and he put it in the field of his smaller brother. He's saying to himself, look, my brother has 7 children. And with so many mouths to feed, I'm sure he can use a little bit more of this wheat. And he put a few bundles there. And so he went home. A short time after, the younger brother came to do his harvest. And when he was done, he also took some bundles of wheat and put it in his older brother's field. He's saying to himself that, look, my brother is alone, with no one to help him harvest. So he may not be able to harvest everything, so let me just make life easier for him and give him some bundles of my wheat. And so the second day, the second night when they went out, both of them did the same thing again. They gave each other some wheat. But on the third night, they happened to have been there at the same time and they bumped into each other. They bumped into each other carrying wheat into the other brother's field. And so, of course, they met and they threw the bundles down and they gave each other a very nice hug and they were very grateful to each other, and tears, started coming down from their eyes because of how selfless the other brother is, recognizing their goodness. And so when King Solomon heard of their love, he built what is called the Temple of Israel there. And they call it the place of brotherhood. So these two brothers helped each other, but a whole temple was built there to serve humanity. The Temple of Israel. So there are great things that can come out of whatever we do in life, of our kindness. We've heard so many times that united we stand and divided we fall, etc. This is why Sangh, association, is so powerful. That we must associate with those who will encourage us to do those beautiful things. We must associate with like-minded people in the field of spirituality. So the glow in the sun is Bhagwan's message. Udayana Aditya Krimina Hantu Atharva Ved says in the second canto, the 23rd, the 32nd chapter and the first verse, that there's healing energy, the destroyer of viruses in the rising sun. So the sun is divine. Science has been able to find that out as well in the rising sun. And look how long the sun has been shining. It's been functioning flawlessly for so long. No maintenance, never got any repair, no upgrade. Why? Because it's not man-made. Bhagavan is saying, I'm the brightness and the sun is divine. That's why it can function like that. Anything that man has created would need repair at some point in time. But Sri Krishna says, this is a manifestation of my glories. The third of the fourth point is sound. Shabdake, that I am the sound in space. Oh, we know by now that sound is not experienced by any other sense organ, but by the ears. And in order for sound to reach the ears, it has to travel. Where does it travel? It travels in space. Because sound is manifested in space. Science tells us today that the whole existence is a vibration, and where there's a vibration, there is sound. Today scientists have also recorded this sound. They've recorded this vibration. You can Google it and you can hear a sound now, that they've recorded a sound in space. Our scriptures have always been saying that. Because Akash, space, functions as a vehicle for sound. Without space, there'll be no sound. Sound waves, that's how we get to hear each other. The waves that are created in space. And so we've always said that there's a divine sound in the universe, and we associate that with having come from the Damaru, the little drum that Bhagwan Shankar that sound has come from the Damaru of Shivji. In other religions and other cultures, the same thing is said. As Hindus, people who follow the Ved, we always say one thing that when regarding other cultures, that if there's a similarity, we embrace it. And when there's a difference, we respect it, not criticize it. We respect the differences, but we embrace the similarities. And so in the same way that we know that sound has come from space, sound has come from the Damaru of Bhagavan Shankar, in John chapter 1, verse 1 says the same thing. In the beginning there was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. The Bible says this. And so, as Hindus, we appreciate and we embrace any similarity from any other scripture. So Bhagavan is saying, I am the sound in space. And the other point, Nrishu Paurusham. Nrishu Paurusham means I'm the ability in men. I'm the humanity in human beings. The compassion and kindness and courage and all those things that we talk about that makes us human, Sri Krishna is saying, that's what I am. The valor among human beings. The essence of all good experiences is me. That is why we have to tap into our deeper selves to find real answers. We always talk about that little voice, that gut check that's within us. Try to find the right answer for a situation. Why? Because that goodness in you, that valor in you, that humanity in you, Bhagavan is saying, that is me. To be successful in anything, in business, etc., experts will tell you, go narrow and go deep if you want to be successful. We don't start a new business, for example, every time we don't make the amount of profit every year. We keep digging deeper, try to make it better. When you start going to the gym, you don't look at your muscles after 1 week going to the gym. There'll be no muscles. You have to keep working. You have to keep chugging away. People who want to lose fat, they go on the keto diet, for example. You won't lose 10 pounds in the first week. You have to keep at it. You have to go narrow and go deep, is the business term for that. I remember just about 30 years ago, at home in the village, I used to be associated, or I am still associated with Sri Maranji, and I remember him telling a story from a book that he had just read. I think it was a book on Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and we were talking about it, and he gave an example of when people want to create a relationship with God, that they move from one form of God to the other, from religion to religion to religion, and not finding God. And the reason for that is it's like digging a hole and looking for water. You dig 2 feet and 3 feet, you don't see water, so you move to the other place and you start digging again. You're never going to find water. You can dig 100 times, 1,000 times. What you have to do, you have to go narrow and go deep. You have to keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper in the same hole, and then you'll find water. You cannot keep jumping around. We have to be resolute. So Bhagavan is saying, keep digging deeper, do that with your bhakti, and you'll attain God. That strength in you is me. That which gives the body the capacity to do things, to walk, etc., that's me. The capacity to procreate, that's me. That paurusham, that strength, I am. And this is not to be misconstrued with, people always ask the question, does God perform the actions or I perform actions? Well, that's another topic. We'll talk about that another time. But know for now that all the actions that you perform is a choice of yours. It's our choice, whatever we do. God has given us the strength. It's like electricity in the home. The electricity is available, but we can do what we want with it in the house. We can use a fan, air conditioning, we can put on a light, whatever we want to do. You can do bad things with it as well. So God gives us the strength. The actions are what is decided by us. So let us always be cognizant of this strength and be grateful. And if we understand this also, we'll be less boastful as human beings and we'll come closer to God. We will remember God more often, which is our ultimate aim in life. So let's do one more point very quickly before we close our satsang. The last point here is Om. Bhagavan says, Sarva Vedeshu Pranavaha. Pranavaha means Om. That Om, in all the Vedas, there is one word that is common, that's Om. In some religions, they call it Omkar. That Om, that Omkar, that source is me. Every mantra in Sanatana Dharma, Vedic mantra, starts with Om. Why? Because Om is the primordial sound. Primordial meaning the sound that's been existing from the beginning of time. And we said before that there's a sound in the universe. That sound we recognize as Om. From an English word standpoint, these words we always use as synonymous with God: omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. They all start with that word Om. There may not be any particular connection, coincidence probably, but omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. Why? Because Om represents God, represents divinity. So, we'll try to do this quick, but just stay with me for maybe 3 minutes. We might see Om written in two ways. One is O and M, and then we see Om written as A-U-M. And we might be asking ourselves, which one is correct? So firstly, the way Om is spelled in Sanskrit is A, U, and Ma. For those of us who know a little bit Hindi. A, U, Ma, 3 letters. Because of Sandhi rule, the conjugation in Sanskrit, that A and U, when you join 2 letters together or 2 words together, in this case we join A and U and it becomes O. A and U is equal to O. Anybody who knows the alphabet knows that. So then there's O and there's the Ma sound. A-U-M, A-U-Ma. It is either Aum or Om. Right? We'll talk about that briefly. So in Sanskrit it's spelled A-U-Ma, then it's broken down to O and Ma, Om. So if you say it's O-M, you're not wrong. If you say it's A-U-M, you're not wrong. A-U-M is more technically correct based on how it's supposed to be spelled. So what does this Om mean to us? Not only as Hindus, but for humanity. We know that we believe in a Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. A, Brahma. U, Vishnu. Ma, Mahesh. What is that? Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh is creator, sustainer, and destroyer. Destroyer, reabsorber, transformer, whatever you call that. The destructive element, Mahesh or Shiva. If you look at the word God, G-O-D, in English, because God is G, is the generative power in God. The O is the operative power in God as Vishnu. And D is the destructive power as in Shiva, as in Mahesh. Because A is creative or generative. And according to Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, he says that if you say A, if you try to say you do that for as long as you can, you do it 3 times, 5 times, that you'll find out very easily that A sound, where does it go? You say, if you say it long enough, you will find that sound is coming from the stomach area. Ravi Shankar says that in the stomach is where creation happens, where the baby comes from, etc. That U, the operating power, if you say the word O, if you do it long enough, you'll feel that it's coming from the chest area, that oo sound. And that chest area is where maintenance happens, the lungs, etc. Sustenance happens in this area. Creation happens when it's lower. Ma is right, in Sanskrit. If you take that letter and you do it long enough, you'll feel the whole head vibrating. Because this sound is coming from the head area. What happens in the head? Transformation. Things die. Old habits, for example, would die if they die from the head. And will bring in new habits. So Om functions according to the spelling. Om functions, whether it's G-O-D, whether it's A-U-M. It functions in the body constantly. Why do I say that? Because something is always being born. Something is always being sustained. Something is always being destroyed in the human body, every moment of the day. What is being born? Cells are being born all the time. Hair, nails, that's Brahma, the creator. That's Ah. Something is always being maintained. Memory, for example, keeps going on, and so many other things in the body. So many things have to be sustained for us to remain alive. And then Ma, something is always dying in the body. Again, cells, bacteria, skin. The skin is always dying, we're getting new skin. So Ma, creation, sustenance, and destruction is constantly happening in the human body. This is what is representative by Om. Even in the world, it happens constantly. Creation, sustenance, destruction. If we were to, let's take recycling for an example. That one's simple. We have the milk jar, and we send it to recycle. Or even when you're making a piece of jewelry, gold, right? That when you do recycling and you destroy that milk jar, that's destruction. When you take that plastic and you make something else with that same plastic, that's creation. But the underlying thing is sustained, the plastic is sustained regardless of the shape. That's maintenance. So even in the world, if there's a successful CEO in a company, a successful company has a successful CEO. For that company to be successful, the CEO is very good at creating things, to be creative, to come up with new ideas. At the same time, he has to be able to maintain what is good in the company. What does he also have to do? He has to be able to destroy. Destroy meaning that which is not good, which is bad for the company, he has to discontinue that. That's dying. So if even a company, Om is being present in every company for it to be successful by destroying bad destructive habits. The Mandukya Upanishad said that Om represents the waking state, the dream state, and the dreamless state. We can't explain that now, but waking is when everything's happening, creation. Dreaming is just a reshuffling of what's happening, maintenance of what you did during the day. And then deep sleep, everything is destroyed. You don't know anything. Everything that you did for your whole life, nothing, you're not conscious of anything. So all your actions and thoughts are destroyed. You're sleeping deep, you don't know anything. You know, these words, I've realized that we're coming very close. We'll end here. Again, we're not able to stick to an hour and a half, but it's a learning experience. This is what we want to do, to come down to an hour and a half, but a few minutes we'll finish. Ah, oo, and ma are such interesting words. When you think about it, if you take ah, for example, a baby is not able to say anything else. As soon as the baby is born, what does the baby say? Ah. Every baby can say ah. Babies also, they say ooh. You ever observe a baby? They say ah. They can't speak yet, but they'll put their mouth together and go ooh. And what are the first words most baby will say? Mama. So they say ah, they say ooh, and they say ma. Why? Because this formulates a primordial sound that has been existing from the very beginning of time. Om. These are basic sound, universal sound. They're connected to God. We talked about the universe having a sound. When you think about it, ah, oo, and ma can also be said by a person who cannot speak. Take a mute person, for example. Any mute person is able to say ah, ooh, and Worse than that, if a person, unfortunately, doesn't have tongue. If a person doesn't have a tongue, that person can also say ah, oo, and ma without. They can't say any other sound. But those sounds they can say because, and those are the words, those are the letters that form om. So a baby, a person who cannot speak, or if you don't have tongue, you can say om. And this is not a Hindu thing. When we look at it, outside of Hinduism, in the churches, when our Christian brothers and sisters say they pray, at the end of the prayer, what do they say? Amen. In America, you come here and you hear they're saying amen. That's something that's made up. Growing up in Guyana and every other part of the world, amen. If you were to delete the na from there, those are the two, and ma. If the na sound is not there. Even our Islamic brothers and sisters, at the end of their prayers, what do they say? Ameen. Same thing. Those are the words that form om. The oo part is not there, but even people in Hinduism, when they say om, they don't say om, they say am. Whatever you say is the same thing. You can say om or am, it all is a, oo, and ma. Every letter in the Hindu alphabet, for example, ends with an a sound. Anyone who knows Hindi a little bit will know that. Ka, ga, there's an a sound. The only time that is half, there's a little stroke like that at the bottom of that letter. It's called a halant. Sanskrit students will know. Then that makes that letter a half letter. Without that, there's an inherent a sound in every Hindi letter. In English, we call it a. This is why it's not, this is why it's amen and ameen. A word is spelled with a in English, but how is it pronounced? A-L-M-O-N-D, what is it? The children are looking at me. Is it almond? It's almond. Alabama, how is it pronounced? Astute. So many words. They're all spelled with A, but they're pronounced with A, because there's no greater sound. There's no sound beyond A. Because an A forms Om, A, U, and Ma. To close here, there's a great saint in India called Nisargadatta Maharaj. He gave an American philosopher by the name of Wayne Dyer, when he studied in India, he gave him a meditation for people to use, and he told him that if 1% of the population can use this meditation, there will undoubtedly be a consciousness shift in the world. The world will become a much better place of better people if they use this meditation. You know what a meditation was? Say for 20 minutes. And in the evening, say Om for 20 minutes. This is a meditation that's been sold for many, many years now. There are many very prominent, even politicians in this country who use it. They won't say it to you, but they do and Om meditation in the morning and evening, because it's powerful if you do it. You're encompassing everything if you say You know, in music lesson, what's the first note? Sa, it's In your alankars, If you're doing a filler in a song, you know, o, In so many songs you can hear those sounds, right? So many songs. You hear u, or Think about this before we close. This sound is a part of every name of God. This is why Nisargadatta Maharaj had said this to this American. And I'm not only talking about Hinduism. In Hinduism, there's Ram, there's Krishna, Durga, Kali, etc. But look at every other name of God. Allah, Muhammad, Jehovah, Buddha, Mahavir in Jainism. You go on, and every Yahweh. Every name of God has a sound because of the importance. And some people say, no, there's no sound in Christ. I believe in Christ. Oh, really? Try to say Christ without an sound and tell me what happens. It's not Christ. It's Christ, isn't it? It's not possible to say God's name without an sound. Children in different parts of the world, in the East especially, you know, people who they love and adore, people who they find most attractive and caring to them, you know, they call him Amma. In some cultures, this is what they say, Ma, Amma. And what they say for father, Appa. Amma and Appa. So these are enough examples for today, but a whole Ved can be reduced to Om. Bhagavan is saying, I am that Om. So we'll close here today. We've already breached our plan, but hopefully better luck next time. So Bhagavan is saying that I am the taste in water, and I'm the light in the sun and the moon, that I'm the sacred syllable, Om, in the mantras. I am the sound in the universe, and I am the ability in all human beings. That I am the essence of the Ved, Om. So we must always be cognizant of these, and if we are, then we can pattern our lives and unlock greater heights, not only spiritually but materially as well. When we know that this Om has encompassed everything in existence, that everything is divine, that Bhagavan says He's a part of everything, and because God is Om. So He says that in me, all beings and the whole world, the example is used as in me, all beings and the whole world are woven as a cloth and a warp. You know that term, warp? Warp, you know, weft and warp when we're making cloth, stitching a cloth. One is long ways. This is not a lesson on weaving. One is long ways and one is crossways. They're interwoven. So Bhagavan is saying that I am like the cloth in the warp. I'm present in everything essentially, is what Bhagavan is saying. The constituents in textile is what I am, is cloth. So my dear brothers and sisters, I hope that you're able to have a slightly better understanding, or at least a reminder of Bhagavan's presence in everything that He has, that everything that exists in the world. Before we close today, we want to go into our meditation. So if we can please, we'll do a short meditation today for about 5 minutes. It would not be necessarily a meditation that we dictate. We'll just focus our mind on Om. because Om is Bhagavan and Om is everything in the world. So let's close our eyes. Let's sit straight. Let's try to keep the feet on the ground if we're on a chair. Let's say Ah or Oo or Ma. Remember all names of God. You don't have to necessarily even take Om. But Om encompasses all these names. So take a deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. One more breath in. Exhale. Find a very peaceful place and focus. Focus the mind on Om for a few minutes. Whether Om is in the form of God, your favorite form of God, or just Om. Listen to the sound and relax. Celebrating and worshipping Ganeshji, we group our voices together. Jai Ganapati Vandana Gananayak, Jai Ganapati Vandana Gananayak, Teri Shabiyati तेरी छवि अति सुंदर सुखदायक, तेरी छवि अति सुंदर सुखदायक। जय गणपति वंदन गणनायक, जय गणपति वंदन गणनायक। चार भुजाधारी तू, चार भुजाधारी मस्तक सिंदूरी रूप निराला है। मूषक वाहन तेरो, तू ही जग का रखवाला। तेरी सुंदर मूरत मन में, तेरी सुंदर मूरत मन में। तू पालक सिद्धि विनायक, जय गणपति वंदन गणनायक, जय गणपति वंदन गणनायक। तेरे नाम को जिसने ध्याया, उस पर रहती सुख छाया। मेरे रोम रोम अंदर में एक तेरा रूप समाया। तेरी महिमा तू ही जाने, तेरी महिमा तू ही जाने। शिव पार्वती के बालक, शिव पार्वती के बालक। जय गणपति वंदन गणनायक, जय गणपति वंदन गणनायक, जय गणपति वंदन गणनायक। बार बार वर मांग हो, हर्ष देह श्रीरंग। पर सरोजयन पावनी, भगति सदा सतसंग सिया। पति रामचंद्र की जय शरणम प्रभु। उमापति महादेव की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। शरणम प्रभु सब संतन की जय। जय सीताराम, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे। रासेश्वरी राधा रानी की जय।
Radha Krishna Foundation launches RKF Virtual Academy, a unique blend of curriculum-based cultural and academic e-learning programs on a fully integrated learning management system designed for all ages. With qualified professional instructors at all levels, we aim to deliver the most amazing learning experience from the comfort of your home, all free of cost. Yoga, meditation, and pranayama for adults and children. Karate, classical dance, vocal, tabla, Sanskrit, Hindi, Bhagavad Gita recitation, and tutoring for the CSEC and National Grade 6 exams. In a new world without boundaries, we have made all our programs available to everyone around the globe, structured for multiple time zones, regardless of race, religion, or age. Registration begins on October 1st, 2020, on our website, radhakrishnaffoundation.com. Take advantage of this unique opportunity for your children and yourself. Share with your family and friends. Make a commitment to yourself now. Let's all learn and grow together. RKF Virtual Academy, mobilizing minds, empowering lives. Radha Krishna Foundation presents an international event. Friday, November 13th, 2020. Deepavali, Return of Light. This live satsang is presented by Radha Krishna Foundation in light of the ongoing lockdown and in support of Sri Lakshmi Mandir of West Palm Beach, Florida. Radha Krishna Dham of number 73 Village, Guyana. Dharma Mandir of London, United Kingdom. And Shiva Mandir Ashram of Leguan Island, Guyana.